Here we are with a side-by-side comparison of the LG Optimus 4X HD against the HTC One X. We're demonstrating two white models of each device here. Very similar devices, both quad-core phones. The One X was released first, although the LG isn't too far behind. So we're going to compare the two and hopefully give a fairly unbiased and rounded opinion of the two devices so that you can make your decision as to which one is the better phone. So just going to switch them both on, and I'm going to start firstly by doing the bit more technical thing and running a benchmark of these two devices, because it's quite apparent that the quad-core processor is going to be one of the standout features of this device that you're going to look for, and you may want to compare the two. So let's just run the full benchmark on each of those, and as it goes to, just run through some of the key differences. So I just want to point out that this is a final pre-production unit, so there may be a few changes to the Optimus 4X on the software by the time it comes to market. This is what we have at the time of recording here, so the benchmark test may be slightly different, but it'll give you a good idea. So in terms of actual specification, both are running Android version 4 or Ice Cream Sandwich. Both have the NVIDIA 1.5 GHz quad-core processor with the additional Core 4 battery management. Now, one of the big differences here is that the LG has a removable battery and also has a micro SD card slot, whereas the HTC One X has a fixed internal battery and fixed internal memory. The LG has 16 gig of internal memory, whereas the HTC One X has 32 gig, but of course you can expand that on the LG through the micro SD memory card slot. The LG also has a standard SIM card slot and not a micro SIM card slot like the One X. So the benchmark is run and you can see the differences here. So the LG has a rating of 4342, whilst the One X has a rating of 4805. Now this isn't a full technical test here. Both devices have been used and got content on them, so there may be some differences in other videos or images that you see, but that gives you a rough idea of how they compare. So it could be that HTC have implemented things a little bit better here than LG, and we've run several tests off camera, and the One X has come out better in terms of the actual performance. So taking a look at the two devices, you can see some fundamental differences. The LG is much squarer, where the HTC has a much more sort of swooping curved design. Now, different people will have different opinions. I like the One X's design, however the LG personally feels better in the hand because it's squarer and it feels slightly better to actually hold, whereas the curvature, whilst it feels good and it feels smooth and looks that little bit nicer and a bit more trendy, it's a little bit more slippy, and I actually find it a little bit harder for one-handed operation. Now it's quite difficult because they've both got large 4.7-inch displays, and a lot of people may find that too big. But if you are looking at this sort of device, I personally, with sort of, I would say average hands, not big, not small, prefer the LG. It just feels a little bit more comfortable for getting around the screen. We've then got to look at the actual buttons that we've got on the device here. So they're all sort of capacitive buttons here that you can use. They're not actually physical buttons. Both have got back keys, both have got home keys. But one consideration here is that the One X has this task switcher, so you can switch between applications that you're running, whilst the LG has this menu button, which is more reminiscent of older devices that run earlier versions of Android. So for example, if I press that, you can get easily into the system settings, whereas on the One X I get the applications that are running, and I can flick through and access those. Now it's a personal thing, and newer devices tend to go down the HTC route, but I think if you are progressing from other devices that run earlier versions of Android, more people will be familiar with the menu button. I certainly am, and that's one of the reasons that I really quite like the Optimus for that reason. It just makes the everyday usability that little bit easier in terms of an actual transitionary thing. So going back to the screens, both are 4.7 inches. LG have a TFT LCD whilst HTC have a Super LCD. Now we could go into the technical details, but in reality they're very, very close in terms of the actual overall performance. The HTC One X probably does have the edge just, but it's a little unfair to say that the LG is bad. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to run some footage on both devices to try and give you a better sort of visualization of the screen and what it can actually do. So I'm going to try and run two similar video clips here for you to watch. So I appreciate it's not going to be that easy to tell, but let me just run those for a few seconds, and you might just see that the One X just has the edge. It just appears that little bit brighter and that little bit crisper. Both are at maximum brightness here. Having said that though, the LG is fantastic. My initial impressions were great, and it actually feels almost like a 3D experience close up in certain shots. It really comes out of you, some of the images. Now of course these videos have been optimized, but you get an idea of the colours there. They're really vivid, but to the naked eye they're just slightly different. Probably the contrast is just that little bit better on the One X, but if you were to use the LG you'd be very impressed with the experience, and really both give you a fantastic playback that you should really sort of be proud of or happy with as an actual user. So here's just another bit of footage. Sorry, they're not in perfect time here. Let me just play the sound as well. So that's the LG. You've got a loudspeaker down here at the bottom. Oh, just pause that. And again. It's quite loud. It's not as loud as I'd really like it. A little bit tinny. And if we just do the same with the One X now. So in terms of volume, both are comparable, not a lot in it. I would actually say the LG speaker is that bit better. Not massively, but there is some definite advantages to the LG speaker. It sounds better when it comes to some of the audio there, but it's not a big thing. So we've got full 3G and Wi-Fi and GPS as you'd come to expect on both of these devices. The HTC One X does offer a little bit more in terms of frequency acceptance when it comes to 3G. It's quad band as opposed to the tri-band support of the LG. Bluetooth version 4, we've got the Wi-Fi, both have DLNA, both have micro USB charging ports. The LG is on the bottom whilst the HTC is on the side. Now you can come up with your own conclusions. Most people would probably prefer the charging port on the bottom. When it comes to docking it in a vehicle or a cradle, it's a much more logical position and allows you to use universal accessories that bit more. The One X has it on the side, which means you're a little bit more tied to official accessories or not quite such a pretty setup. So if you have a universal cradle in a car, for example, that clamps on the side of the device, it's a little bit trickier to get an actual power into the side of the device there, depending on the cradle that you're using. So then it comes down to the cameras. Both have 8 megapixel cameras, and we'll do a comparison on the Clove blog of the actual images that you get, so be sure to check that out at blog.clove.co.uk. Both have LED flashes, both record HD video footage. HTC has the more advanced interface when it comes to using the camera on the device. They've got their image sense user interface, which is quite a nice feature when it comes to switching between camera or video recorder. But LG haven't done a bad job when it comes to the camera, and there are some nice options within this as well. So you can see on the One X that we can switch between either the camera or the video recorder very easily and actually do that from one screen, whereas on the LG we actually have to switch through a physical, well, I say physical, an on-screen button there, but that's no massive issue. Neither of them actually have a physical camera button on the side of the device, but on the LG you can use the volume keys as a way of taking a picture, which is a nice feature. It's done away with a dedicated button, but you can use that. You can flick on either of them to the front-facing cameras, both at 1.3 megapixel for photos or video if you choose. You've got a whole variety of settings on both of them. We could go into a long list of what they are, but there's a lot of similarities here, albeit the menus are laid out slightly differently. So you can do full 1080 recording on both. You can change some of the scenes, the settings when it comes to white balance, zoom, timer, geotagging is all part and parcel. So very comparable there, and not an awful lot of difference between the two. When it comes to the battery is bigger on the LG. It's around about 2000 milliamp as opposed to the 1800 on the One X, so there's some advantages there to the LG. It's of course removable as well, so you can replace that, and you've also got the removable micro SD card there as well, which is a massive benefit. In terms of weight, there's about 3 or 4 grams in it, so you'd be hard pushed to tell the difference. And then we've looked at the physical size. There's not much in it either. So that's just a sort of quick comparison, if you like, of the One X against the LG. We could go down into more detail, but so much is very, very similar on this. You've got the Android experience, and I think we've taken a look at the key differentiating factors between the two devices. For more information, check out www.clove.co.uk.